The Rochester Symphony presents An Opera Affair, featuring the Rochester Symphony Orchestra and Chorale at Lowe High School. Conducted by Maestro Jerry Lance. The wonderful thing about this concert is it gets to feature our Rochester Symphony Chorale. The chorale was down for a time. We had, I don't think you say disband with the chorale, but we had just disorganized the chorale for a while, took a couple seasons off and said, should we have a chorale? Do we have enough members? And a couple people involved with the chorale, Pat Anderson, the conductor, who does a wonderful job, and Jody Milius, the president, decided, yes, we ought to have a chorale, recruited a bigger group than we ever had and a better group. So we've got over 80 singers doing a wonderful job, and most of the pieces we're doing this concert feature our chorale in the greatest choruses ever created for opera. thank you so much, and welcome to our opera affair. I've wanted to do an opera program for a long time, and we put all our favorites on here. It's going to be such an afternoon. Mozart created his first truly great opera at the age of 30 in 1786. And The Marriage of Figaro, because he had a wonderful story from the French play by Pierre de Beaumarchais, rendered into an Italian opera libretto by Lorenzo da Ponte. It was a fantastic story. The story is deceptive and funny and subversive and a little crazy. And all that kind of sneaking around, plotting, conniving is caught up in that overture that's full of energy, full of speed, little accents here and there. You never know when it's going to change. It's a wonderful start for a program, and a really short overture as well. We're going to hear 3 more pieces from The Marriage of Figaro. First, we meet a young character early in the first act named Cherubino. Cherubino means little cherub or angel, and he was anything but. He was kind of a page boy around the court, young lad beginning to feel hormones for the first time. And he says, ogni donna mi fa palpitar. Every woman makes me palpitate, makes me tremble. And he sings this to 2 women who do exactly that to him. And he says, I don't know what to do. I go out and I talk to the trees, I talk to the streams, I talk to the mountains, I'll talk to anybody, and if nobody's there, I'll talk to myself, because I'm going crazy with what's going on. Now, the interesting thing, oh, by the way, there's always a nice introduction for every aria in an opera by Mozart, except this one. He's so anxious to tell his story that barely does the orchestra get started, the Cherubino jumps right in. No intro. Okay? Now, there was a tradition that had been going on for a century that young men like this, boys becoming men, right at the point where the voice might be cracking or whatever, are played by young women, not by young men. They call it a pants or trouser role, and so Meghan Lowe will come appearing as Cherubino. Okay? I asked her if she would, look more like a guy in what she wore, but I said, you don't have to cut off your long, beautiful hair for this. So just imagine she's a boy for a little while. It takes quite an imagination. Then we move to the last aria in the opera, sung by Susanna, who's really the main character of the opera. She is betrothed to Figaro. Figaro is the manservant to the Countess, the Count Almaviva. Susanna is the maidservant to the Countess. Unfortunately, the Count has his eyes not on his wife, the Countess, but on young Susanna. But you can't tell the Count not to do this, even though everybody knows it's wrong, so they connive. And the way they've connived is to have Susanna dress up like the Countess in one of the Countess's gowns. And after she explains what she's doing, she starts to sing a beautiful love song to the person she's going to meet, whom she's going to crown with roses. And of course, the Count, looking on, gets very jealous and very upset. And of course, he doesn't know it's Susanna in the Countess's gown. And finally, he throws in our third scene, and Michelle Howard will sing Susanna, by the way. She does that beautifully. In our third scene, the Count, Sam Golden does it, expresses his anger. And the people of the court, represented by the chorale, try to tell him, forgive her, forgive her. And he says, no, I won't, until suddenly out of nowhere appears the Countess, not the person he thought he was seeing. And he realizes his game is up. He's been caught. And by the way, you have to pretend that Carol Nelson, who's singing the Countess, is not here until you hear her sing. She'll be standing here, but she's not here, okay? Only when she sings is she known to be here. And then the music slows, and he begs her forgiveness. Pardon, no, pardon, I'm sorry. I want to be forgiven. And she says, of course, I forgive you. The people of the court, and by the way, that for some reason, that scene when the husband is asking the wife for forgiveness and is totally at fault is my wife's favorite scene in all of opera. It's true. And then the court joins in the general happiness sweetly, and finally they decide to throw a party, and it ends with that. So here are 3 more scenes from Mozart's masterpiece, The Marriage of Figaro.
Oh, Join us next week as we continue the Rochester Symphony's presentation of An Opera Affair. Next week, Maestro Jerry Lance leads the orchestra and chorale through the dramatic works of Wagner. This activity is made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board, thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. The Rochester Symphony Orchestra Presents is a co-production of KSMQ Public Television, the Rochester Symphony Orchestra and Chorale, and Rochester Symphonic Vision Productions.